You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Anyway, Joseph, welcome to Serious Growth Podcast. And my mission on this show is to tell it like it is, baby. You know, tell the truth, even if it's not popular. And let's just see what happens. So
I love it.
Yeah. And listen, you know, I'm really curious to know because obviously you're my second cousin. Right. And I know in our background, one of the things that we've always had as we grew up, your dad, his sister, we all had music in our background. I was playing, saxophone in grade school, and I'm assuming that you did the same thing. Is that right?
It's right. I was in drumline in school. Yeah, okay. So that was my thing. But yeah, always, and I always tinkered with the guitar. My dad plays guitar and sings, so I picked that up from him at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
And you're right. Our whole family is very musical.
It is. Yeah, true. My dad used to sing at. He used to not karaoke sing. He actually used to go to these little night honky tonks. I was so surprised because that caught me off guard. But he was a good singer.
Your dad was a great singer.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I went to a club that he was at, and I couldn't even believe that was him singing.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then, but I also used to remember we used to get together at your grandma's house.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Mary, right? Aunt Mary to me. Yep. That's your grandma, right? And I mean, there'd be jam sessions. You know, Judy. It'd be Judy, Frankie, myself. I mean, it was just now that I'm thinking about that, it goes that far back. Now, did you get?
That's really cool.
Were you a part of that at all during those days?
Unfortunately, no. Like I never got, and I hear about it. My grandma tells me about it. And, my dad's told me about it. And no, unfortunately, apparently they quit jamming by the time that I was old enough to hang out and do it myself. But pretty cool though how that kind of stuff runs in your DNA.
Yeah,
you know? It's like undeniable. There's always been something. Even from a young age, I think I got my first guitar, first drum set as a kid, and I've always been drawn to it.
Yeah,
it's like
now,
this.
When you play drum, I assume that you read music and all that, because I know your dad plays guitar. He doesn't read music, does he?
No, and I don't either.
You don't?
I read not traditional like notation. In Nashville, we have this system called the Nashville number system, and it's basically just kind of a guide for improvising, so you kind of know like where the chords are going, but it doesn't tell you what exact notes to do. It's kind of up to you. So that's about the extent of my reading. I kind of started when I was in college. I started to be a music major, so I started learning how to read. But no, I've always kind of gone with my gut, with my ear. That's what I've made my career out of, at least.
I'm curious to know the number system that you're talking about. Is it designed like that to keep the creative side? Is that what it's for? So you don't get too
it's got two reasons for it. The number one reason is just so that all the musicians can kind of listen to each other and be creative and improvise ideas and throw ideas around really quickly. The second reason they use this number system is that it's not married to a certain key. So if for example, if you're playing this song in the key of C, and the singer who's singing on the session is like, guys, I think this is a little too low for my range, you can instantly just change the key without rewriting the entire score.
Interesting.
So that's it keeps things really efficient.
Yeah.
And in Nashville recording, the key word is efficiency. It's all about getting stuff done quick and efficient.
You know, I like that. Because the thing is, I talk to a lot of people. I've been doing a lot of podcasting. This is one of my favorite things to do now. And it's really interesting to me, even though I talk to people from all walks of life, there's some common things that it's just like, for example, what you're talking about. In personal training, one of the things I don't like when I was training my trainers is I didn't like them to train clients on a clipboard, because what that did is that took the interaction and you engaging with that client. And this to me sounds kind of similar. You know, now when you start paying attention to the music,
right,
and you have these nuances like you're talking about, it really it does make it more efficient.
It does. Yep.
I mean, in weight training, you get a lot more results when you pay attention to how the exercise feels, as opposed to saying, okay, I did 10 reps. You see the difference there.
Right. Absolutely.
Same idea,
yep.
I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you started out drumming. When did you actually start getting into the doing your guitar, playing guitar?
So I kind of tinkered with guitar before drums, but once I started doing drums, I really got into that, all while still tinkering. So what ended up happening is after high school, I was playing drums in a few different bands, and I don't know, song ideas started coming to me as I would play guitar, and I started writing a few songs, and I would kind of pitch them to the people I was in bands with. Be like, hey, we should start doing some original stuff. Here's a song I wrote. And I just never felt like they did them the way I wanted or whatever. And I eventually said, you know what? I'm going to start my own band. And I think I was around 21 when I decided to kind of stop taking drumming so seriously and start taking being a singer-songwriter more seriously. Yeah. The other thing that conveniently happened is about 2021, I had a cigar shop in Hanford, California, and I would take my guitar to work every day. And on slow days, I would write songs, and it just became kind of more important to me than playing drums. And yeah, by 21, I was basically not playing drums in any bands anymore, and purely singing and playing guitar.
My wife is an artist. She does this painting. Yeah. And I asked her, I said, how do you get the inspiration to paint what you do? And, she says it comes from the gut. And so my question to you is, how do you come up with songs? Is it based on of course, I think a lot of, if you listen to some country songs, I mean, it's not always like that, but it's usually about a dog died or some sad, something that's been, tragic in your life. But what drives you and what inspires you to come up with your music?
Yeah, it's always different. A lot of times it's something somebody will say, like, nothing's safe around a songwriter. If you said during this chat right here, you could say something that just clicks, what I mean? I'd be like, oh, that's a great song idea. And, I'll give an example, like a song I wrote that ended up being a pretty big thing for me is a song called Don't Tempt Me with a Good Time. That was recorded by a guy named Luke Combs. And the way that song came about is just because Luke always said that term. He'd always just be like, well, don't tempt me with a good time. Don't tempt me with a good time. And then finally we're like, we should write a song about that. And then we just sit. Nashville's a very collaborative town. So since I've moved there, I hardly write by myself. It's always usually at least two of us, sometimes three of us. And we'll just kind of talk about, if that's the theme, someone will come in with a title maybe. And we'll just kind of talk about how you relate to that phrase. Don't tempt me with a good time. What does that mean? It's just kind of like, at the time I was like, well, like I'm a married guy. I've calmed down. I'm not as much of a partier, but that doesn't mean I can't go out and still do it. And so when I think of don't tempt me with a good time, it's like, don't call me out for being domesticated, because I can still hang with y'all.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was one example. Another one, I'll give you another one. Like one day I was down and out about something. I don't know, bills were piling up and we didn't have a bunch of gigs and everything was getting tight. And I showed up to a writing session with a group. I had no idea of what we were going to write. And one of my friends said, like, how you doing? I go, I'm doing okay. I could sure use some good news right now, though. Yeah. And we're like, that's it. So a lot of times it's just like, it's listening, and it's just literally a phrase can inspire an entire thing.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're going to get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian power burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
And I understand that, because one of the things I didn't know about myself, because I've written books and, and I didn't know that I was creative that way.
Right.
So I know what you mean. A lot of the stuff that I'm inspired by is stuff that I hear, something I hear on the radio or something that somebody says. And it turns me on to something I want to write about. So I think I understand you on that level. It's interesting to me that when you say that you collaborate, it's usually with about two people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I'm assuming, I think that's pretty cool, because it seems like you guys are open enough to like not be afraid who comes up, if you come up, how do you figure out who comes up with I was responsible for that song because I came up with the title. How does that work actually when you're creating a song? Do you go in saying, look, this is the session where I'm trying to create some music, or does it how does that happen? What's that dynamic?
Man, it's just super open. Like, sometimes when you have an idea, you'll reserve it for writing with a certain person or whatever. But a lot of times when you're getting together, it's just something that got scheduled by somebody else, or sometimes it's we all have frequent collaborators, but we also get together with people we've never met before.
Yeah.
And, it's different every time, Leo. Sometimes you'll just kind of start throwing ideas back and forth. It's never like going in with something really hard, like this is what we're doing today. It's usually just, hey, I got this song idea that I think might be cool. And we'll just throw them back and forth until all three of us are like, yeah, that's the one we want to work on.
Yeah, I like that.
And everything is super like, nobody is hung up on who came up with what. Everything is very cut evenly. If you're three people in a room and you all, you're all even writers, that's how it works.
That's pretty cool.
I think if you don't hold your own, in a couple writes with somebody, they eventually just don't write with you anymore.
Right. Exactly.
That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like the strong survive, or whatever, that you kind of weed yourself out that way, and the rest cream rises to the top. I get that. Funny that you say that now about collaborating. When I wrote a lot of my training courses, my partner to this day, him and I, what we used to go into a room and we put up a big whiteboard, a chalkboard. Yeah. And the only rule, and that session, because we were trying to come up with content, is we said there are no bad ideas. And so we've just come up with ideas and start writing it on the chalkboard. Yeah. And that's how we wrote a lot of our stuff.
That's awesome. The most common phrase you'll hear in a Nashville writing session is, "This is not it, but." It's like how they like Pat, like, this might be stupid, but
don't judge me.
Don't judge me, but it's always like, this is not quite it, but and a lot of times the other writers will be like, dude, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. You're kind of when you say stuff like that, you're kind of like prepare for the worst. It could be better, but I know what you mean.
Exactly.
That's so funny. Okay, so you started playing locally when you had your own band. And I'm assuming that way back when you had good support from your family.
Oh yeah. My, like you said earlier, we were talking about how musical our family is. And my dad is my biggest fan. He's been super supportive. Same with my mom. I mean, everybody's been really cool. I really couldn't have asked for a better support system than what they've given me. It's been amazing.
That's hugely important,
Oh yeah.
Especially, and again, I may be speaking a little bit out of turn, but I'm in the kind of business that wasn't a 9-to-5 kind of business.
Yes.
And to be a country singer, or to make your, you have a lot of people out there going, why don't you be kind of normal and just get a regular job? I don't know if you heard that. I heard that.
Oh, dude.
I heard that
of course.
constantly.
Yeah. Oh, why don't you go work for your dad? Why don't you be a farmer? Like this. And I you know, it's actually tough even sometimes for me to look at it, because I'm like, this is a sweet setup. Like I love what my folks do for a living. I love the farm thing. I love the farm life, but my heart is just more into this. And I'm a kind of person that doesn't compromise. And I luckily, again, my dad has never pressured me to be a farmer. He's never been like, I sure wish you would take over the farm. You know, it's never been that kind of thing. He's been like, dude, you have a talent, you have a drive, like, you know, and he sees that I work way harder at music than I ever did on the farm, you know, it's so cool. Like when you can work your butt off at something and never feel like you're working your butt off, you know,
nothing better. I can relate to you, because I was kind of in the same situation. When I got out of school, I really didn't know where the hell I wanted to go. My childhood dream was to be an athlete, a pro athlete. Well, it didn't work out. So I ended up back on the dairy. And it didn't take long for me to realize, you know, as much as I know it, you know, and it's kind of almost expected to be left to the next generation, but it wasn't in my heart. What you said is really something that's hugely important. It's that heart translates to passion and enthusiasm. And, you know, you would do this stuff. If you didn't have to pay bills, you would do it for free. I mean, that's
exactly it. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And when I fell into bodybuilding, that was my second chance at becoming an athlete, believe it or not. Yeah. And I knew in my heart of hearts that, and when you get to that point, correct me if I'm wrong, you won't compromise, because you believe heart and soul that this is where you need to be, even if it's not normal.
I agree. Yep. I relate to that 100%. That's exactly the feeling.
And to have your family, you know, back and behind you like that is so awesome. You know,
it is awesome.
I really commend them for that, you know, because it doesn't only happen with family. You know, a lot of times it's teachers. Sometimes they kill people. They kill young children's dreams.
Oh man.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily on purpose, but it's just the way that they've been trained. And unfortunately it kills that creative spirit in my view.
It does. You know? I agree with you 100%. I've had more than a couple colleagues in this business tell me stories about teachers in high school telling them, you know, like, you're never going to be anything. And, you know, with this whole music thing, and, you know, those people I'm talking about, they've been up for Grammys. They've been up for CMA awards, ACM awards. So, you know, who proved who wrong?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So then when was the day that you decided, why was it Nashville? I mean, was it from you playing locally in your own group to all of a sudden saying, hey, I want to go to Nashville and do this? I mean, how does that transition work?
It's, well, a couple things had to happen. The first thing that had to happen is meeting my wife. And I'll tell you why, because she is a bigger dreamer than I am. I've always wanted to pursue this. I knew I had the support of my parents, but I was still pretty grounded in, I'm going to work on the farm and I'm going to play gigs on the weekend and become a big act in California. That was what my thought process was. When I met my wife, when Martina started getting involved in our career, me and her are a music act together now. Yeah. She's a lot more outgoing than I am. She's more, I'm kind of a bit of a introvert, and she's definitely not. And so she had no problem calling people, like being that squeaky bearing, you know, like she was squeaking at booking agents. She was squeaking at all these people, and ended up starting getting us good gigs where we were opening up for big acts. And I think that was where the transition started. So we went from, you know, playing little bars to start opening up for national touring acts, and started get to know artists, getting to know crew members, getting to know other musicians that did this for a living, that were based out of Nashville. And after a while of doing that, we acquired enough friends and enough contacts in Nashville. You know, they would be like, dude, you guys need to come out to Nashville and check it out, you know. And we became friends with also some radio people that would tell us stuff like, you know, if you guys really want to take this to the next level, you guys should go check out Nashville. Just go take a trip. Just see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And so we eventually took a trip out there, and that first trip we were offered a management contract and some other stuff with some contacts that we'd already made. And we both kind of go, I think that moving out there is realistic. I think that we know enough people out there to do this thing. And we finally just put a date on it and did it. And that management contract ended up not happening. We ended up not signing with those people the way it was supposed to, which is fine.
Yeah.
It still motivated us enough to know that we're good enough to, that first trip too, we got walked right into a record label. We're like, we're good enough for our very first trip to get walked into these places and stuff. I think that moving over there could be really cool. I think that we can make something out of ourselves over there.
Yeah.
So,
and what I found, again, from talking to various people, and it kind of sounds like you did this to a degree, I did it at some point, is at some point you got to jump in the water, Yeah, and I think putting a date on it, creating some urgency, and staying accountable to, because otherwise you end up going, well, maybe next year, or you just don't do it sometimes.
Right.
And
it's you just kind of got to go with your gut, just go, it's time. Let's just do this. And honestly, like sometimes I tell people that ask me for advice as moving to Nashville, I'm like, don't wait till you're 27. Like I did. Like if you're 22, 23 and feel like you want to move to Nashville eventually, just do it. Yeah. It's not gonna, it's not gonna bite you.
Right.
If you go over there and you don't make money at music, like get a regular job for a while.
Exactly.
And immerse yourself into the scene and just see what happens.
Yeah.
You can work a cruddy job in your hometown or in Nashville. It's going to be the same. You'll still, as long as you're making enough to pay for your apartment, like go for it. What you got to lose? Yeah.
I like that analogy because, because I was scared shitless when I jumped into the personal training business back in '82, believe it or not. There wasn't one person doing personal training in my town. Nobody even knew what the hell a personal trainer was. They thought I was an aerobics instructor,
Right.
But that didn't even matter. And one of the ways I talk to myself, and this is kind of what you're talking about, I said, look, if it doesn't work out, I probably won't die from it. And I can always go back to the dairy or find a job. I mean, that's not going to be the issue. I think it's just has more to do with, I think a part of it's feel like I don't want to fail,
Yeah, it's a pride thing for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be able to deal with being scared shitless. I mean, that's just, look, these guys that are these, because I've interviewed a lot of these guys that are military guys, for these guys to go out and to be in combat, they're scared shitless, but they learn how to not be in that environment, be comfortable in an uncomfortable environment. It's no different.
Yes.
Because what? When you take that leap like you did, I'm sure that you were thinking, shit, if you were just looking at yourself in the mirror, you're probably thinking, I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. Fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, that's at least that's the way I was thinking,
That's exactly. It's the same exact thing.
Yep. So then the management thing didn't work out for you, and I see here that you have some songs that actually went to that made the charts, right? 41 and 51. But did that happen right away, or did you have some? Was it hard to get out of the blocks? Because sometimes it is. But how was your climb? Was it your first song that you did? Was it part of the album, or did it take a while for you to break in?
It took us a minute to break in. We kind of put out some songs. We've been into, but we still don't have a record deal, which I used to think of as a bad thing. And the more I get into this stuff, the more I'm totally okay with not having one, because it's kind of nice to have complete freedom. To do whatever we want. But it took a minute. We put some songs out in Nashville, like right when we moved to town, we put some out and they kind of did okay. They didn't make any waves. And then we put out a song called Hey Mama that caught the ear of a producer in town. And his name's Johnny Garcia. He plays guitar for Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. And in a roundabout way, he heard the song and we started working together. And we decided to hire a promotions team and take a song out to radio. And that's when that first Billboard hit or I should say top 50. And trying to think of the number. It was like 53. And that's pretty good for an independent act to get on that chart like that. That's good, because music business pretty political. For a lot of things, you have to be on a label in order to break through a certain thing.
Yeah.
But to break as good as we did, we had a really good relationship with a lot of radio people. Radio people loved us. And it was hard work, though. Like Martina and I literally traveled around the entire United States, the two of us and our little dog, and went to radio station after radio station after radio. Not, by the way, not getting paid to do this. We're just using our own money, going around, meeting these program directors, playing them songs acoustically, and just hanging out, and ended up building quite a network of colleagues and friends on radio, and did really well for an independent act. And we have a song out right now that's doing even better. And it's hard, man. It's all about being personable with people. It's about being a good human being and having a good product. And I think that we've done as good of a job as we possibly can, again, being an independent act.
Yeah.
And and then on the other side of stuff, it's all about being honestly, being a good person more than anything has taken me far in the music industry, because there's a lot of kind of snaky dudes out there.
Oh yeah. It's, in every industry, I mean, like in sports, it was the same way. You think that it gets less political as you go up, and it gets even worse. And you got to learn how to play the game. And that's part of you hanging in and staying in the business, and having the ability to adapt on the fly, because obviously you thought you were going to sign a management deal, and right there, you had to you got to keep making these adjustments and deal with setbacks. This is the kind of stuff that most people have no clue the journey that you go on. They even think, oh, overnight success. You made it in Nashville. They have no clue. No. I know that because I've been through the same damn thing, and I know I just know what you've got through. Especially, that's a very competitive environment, I would think.
It is. Yeah, there's a phrase they say a lot in town. It's like it's a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah. No kidding. Hey, is it one of those kind of deals like in baseball? It's like, what have you done for me lately? You can be going good in baseball, but you get into a slump. It's like, holy shit, It gets pretty,
they'll forget you in a heartbeat.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
pretty sad.
Yeah. So now, do you still have, I mean, obviously if a record deal came along, is that something that you'd be open to, or where do you see yourself going with this? Is there a bigger picture for you and your wife?
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely open to it. If it was the right people and the right kind of deal, I would 100% be down to sign a record deal. Because at the end of the day, like, the one thing Nashville's taught me is collaboration can really make something bigger than it already is.
Yeah.
And that's either writing together or just simply being in business with a record label, because they have a lot of resources that no matter what, I won't have.
Right.
So I'm totally open for it. But here's the deal. I'm not banking on it. And honestly, it's in the back of my mind, but it's way in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Because I know that I, as an independent artist, can be successful. Like, I can make enough money and have enough stuff going on to where I don't need a record deal.
Right.
And I think being in that spot makes for a better record deal if it comes on. If I'm already successful and someone's like, hey, we want you to sign this deal, I can be like, well, I don't really need you guys, so maybe you can sweeten this deal a little bit.
I think I think it's hugely important. It gives you a lot of leverage.
It gives you a lot of leverage, and then you have a choice. Like, I would hate to be in a spot where it was just like feeling like I have to take a cruddy deal to feel like I can succeed.
Right.
I'm not in that spot at all. So
I'm curious.
My end goal is just to keep pushing, keep putting music out. We've done some things in the last couple of years, like rebranded our name and did some other stuff. And we're doing really well. So it's all about putting out content, putting out music. And I was telling my wife the other day, like, songs are kind of like playing darts. you know, every once in a while, someone is going to step up that line, throw a dart that's going to hit a bullseye.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the rest of us can, you know, sometimes it takes a while. You got to throw, you know, a half a dozen or however many it takes to get close to that. So, So yeah, I'm just throwing darts, man. We're just going to keep putting music out and continue to tour and continue to network and just see where it takes us.
You know, throwing the dart analogy that you use in baseball, you know why the people that hit the most home runs also strike out the most. You know, I don't know if you know that stat, but that's the
I
truth.
did not know that, but it makes 100% sense.
So you got to keep, in other words, you know, the message is you got to keep swinging. You know,
swinging.
At some point it's going to hit. You know, based on laws of averages. You know, for sure you won't make it if you quit. That's for damn sure. You know,
exactly. If you stop putting out songs, nothing's ever gonna hit.
Exactly.
Yep.
Do you ever have when I was writing my book, I went through a phase and it scared the crap out of me a little bit. I was writing along and then all of a sudden I had nothing more to say. And I'm thinking, holy crap. It's like, I think this is when I learned about a writer's block. Do you have these blocks and how long have they lasted? How do you get over them?
Yes. I mean, I have them all the time. I'm in one right now. But you know, I think that's the beauty of, and I'm in one right now because I'm over here in California by myself. That's the beauty of like the songwriting kind of community in Nashville. It almost keeps that writer's block from happening because you're constantly collaborating with other people. And you never want to be that guy that has nothing to say in a writing room. So even if you don't have anything to say and you get into a writing room and other people are throwing around ideas, your brain starts going like, okay, it's kind of like, you know, you're almost in a race and you're like, I'm not going to be the dude that just sat at the starting line and didn't even try to run. Yeah. And I think like out of that, you just force yourself to be creative. But yeah, you take me away from that scene right now. I'm kind of like, I don't, but again, I think sometimes writing blocks have inspired me in different ways. You know, when I've gotten a bit of it, I'll try to learn a new skill. Like, you know, like maybe I should focus on getting better at guitar. Yeah. And then through getting better at guitar, I start having ideas again. You know, or oh, I should learn how to do recording. Like I should learn how to use Pro Tools and stuff like that. Yeah. And all of a sudden now, like, oh, I'm pretty efficient on Pro Tools, and this has inspired me to mess around with an idea. So I just try to, if I do have writer's block, I try to do something else related to music still that might inspire a song later on. You know what I mean? Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, because it's like, I'm sure like with writing a book about fitness, if you're, you know, like get hung up on the words, you know, just hit the gym, like go work out. Maybe something will hit you from doing that, you know? Yeah. Not only is it a good distraction, it takes the stress off you, because what was happening to me was like, because I'm the type of mentality, it's like, I can will this thing. I can, you know, overcome anything. But for me, that wasn't the right approach to take. The harder I tried wasn't getting me the result that I wanted. It actually made it worse. So I think we're kind of saying the same thing. And when I did step back away from it, and like you're saying, do something else, but it's still, you know, obviously it's still on your mind. It's related. Right. You know, and then all of a sudden that one day, it took about 3 months, actually. It was kind of weird. I just thought it was over. And all of a sudden, Joseph, it was like, holy shit. This is when we were still writing this stuff. It wasn't even on a computer. All of a sudden, it was like the pen just takes off in your hand and you're just following it. I don't know if you ever had that feeling. And it's like at the end of all this that you've written, it's like, you know, you stop, take a breath, and take a look at what you've done. And it's just like a whole new avenue of creativity that just happens, right? Absolutely. So and especially writing songs, sometimes I've told people, like, you know, you have to go live life to get ideas to write songs about life. You know, if all you're doing is sitting in a studio all the time and trying to write songs, you know, you're never going to be inspired. You have to go do stuff. You have to, like, you know, immerse yourself. Like if you're writing a book for people, you have to be around people a little bit, you know? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. But, you know, once I went through that writer's block,
then the next time that it happened, I recognized it. The first time that it happened, I wasn't sure what it was. You know, I never had writer's block because I never wrote. And so I thought, what the hell is this, you know? And then then when I came out of it, that gave me confidence that just said, look, don't panic. Because what you're saying about the mind racing, I felt that. It's like, I'm in panic mode. You know, I don't want this to end yet.
Right. Yeah.
And once and once I learned about that, then when I started having these blocks, because I've had several of them, I still have creative blocks because I do stuff that's creative. I don't panic anymore. I know what's going on. I back off and you know, that's when it all happens. It's like people that are trying to get pregnant, they can. When they stop worrying about that stuff, all of a sudden they get pregnant.
Absolutely.
I think it's kind of the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. My big fear that I've always had, that I used to have when I was a younger songwriter is this the last good song I'm ever going to write?
Right.
You know, like, I don't even think about that anymore, but I used to think that all the time. Like, am I ever going to be able to write a song this good again? Was this just like a beam from God and I'm never going to get that again?
Yeah. One and done.
Yeah. I'm like, no, these things come all the time. It's not as much. And you start realizing that it's not as much a by chance thing, but you can actually develop a skill set to make sure that, you know, that you're not depending on a beam from above to write a song, you know?
Well, and I think, like, if I can relate it to training, we get to a point in bodybuilding, Joseph, because you have to know everything about training and nutrition. And what ends up happening is you do thousands and thousands of reps and you do all these things that you get to a point where you can almost produce stuff at will when you want to. And I think that you combine that, and again, I'm just making shit up here based on how I feel, but you combine that with having passion for what you do, and it's never going to end. When you lose that passion and all that makes you up in this business, I think that's when you're in trouble. I think that's when you got to walk away from it. And I always told myself, you know, the minute it starts becoming that buzz and that juice that I get, I'm 65 years old, man, and I still get up every day more excited about life than I was when I was younger. How lucky am I? You know,
awesome.
And I'm in the business that I want to be in. That someone told me to go out and go find a real job. Well, you know, why don't you just stop being a dreamer? I heard this shit, you know?
Yeah.
And here I am still dreaming at 65. I don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah, listen.
No, it's an inspiration, man. That's great.
It's really cool. I'm really lucky. I noticed here that you have you gotten into producing songs for other writers or other artists?
So again, during one of my writer's block kind of eras, I really dove into recording technology and really getting in on the recording side of stuff. And I produced a record for a friend of mine. This is one of those crazy by chance things. He had a guy that was already hired to do a record for him, and the guy flaked on him like 3 times. And I had just started kind of getting into it, and he called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in recording these 3 songs for me?" And I was like, "Well, I've never done it before, but I'll give it a shot." And it went pretty good. It was, you know, I look back on it and I kind of laugh because it's not nearly as good as the stuff I'm doing now, but it was a launch pad to get into that thing. And after I did a couple for him, I started producing stuff for Martina and I with our act. And people started taking notice, like, "Hey, your guys' record sounds really great," or "This record, I heard that you worked on it." And it just started kind of getting people asking me if I would be interested in producing them.
Yeah.
And gosh, it's been great. I mean, honestly, through this whole COVID stuff right now, like, because we're not playing gigs, like producing is the only thing that's keeping me afloat, and it's been really great. It's a completely different creative process, and I get to work with a lot of great musicians, and it's been awesome. I love it. I love producing music. It's been the best blessing I've had here lately.
Well, and the thing about that is, as you mentioned, what it did for you and does is it creates another revenue stream, and it diversifies you, in the industry that you're in. I think that's nothing but a good thing. And I think that can only make you better as a musician, knowing, when you know this stuff back and forth to the nth degree, man, you become masterful after doing this for years and years. My question is this, did you produce some stuff for Blake Shelton?
No, I've never produced anything. No, we played a show with Blake Shelton. Back in the day. No, as far as producing goes, I have a client named Dustin Huff, who's an up and comer. I have a guy named Taylor Ray Holbrook, who is a social media sensation. He's got millions and millions of followers. He's one of those guys that kind of went viral a few years ago, and is doing so. I mean, this guy is the American dream. Humble beginnings, small town Virginia guy, and blew up on social media and sells, again, millions and millions of streams and has millions of fans. It's really cool. It's been great working with him. And then most recently, I've been producing a girl named Allie Colleen. I don't like to throw it around a lot because I know she doesn't like it being thrown around a lot, but between us, she is Garth Brooks's daughter. And she is amazing. I mean, just one of the most talented voices, besides my wife, obviously, who I think is the greatest female country singer on the planet right now. Allie's right up there with her. And it's been really cool working with all these talented people. And I'm always, there's a couple other people that we're talking with now. And I've started working with another fella that I've worked with for years, but we've kind of like starting to tag team, being kind of business partners on some stuff. And it's been awesome. It's been really, really, really a cool thing, and just having a lot of fun with it.
Again, I kind of, tell me if this is so, like, you've been a producer for someone. To me, it's almost like being a personal trainer for athletes that I used to train. And
100%.
Okay, so same idea, right? Because now I don't know, do you run in, is there like, I would think that, because with the athletes that I trained, they had to trust my judgment on the way I was training them, because I knew training to the degree that I can make them perform better on the field. And essentially what you're doing is making those people sound better, if I got this right, on record, through the stuff that you're doing, right?
Right.
And so there were times, Joseph, especially with the guys that were, I dealt with some high pro level athletes, and there was some headbutting going on, because it was like, they made a lot of money, and they were getting it from somebody who was saying, this is not the way to do this. Did you ever run across that, or do you run across those kinds of situations?
I do a little bit. Yeah. It hasn't been anything dramatic, but there are some times where someone will get hung up on something, or a lot of times it's how loud the vocal should be in a mix. Like, they always want it louder and louder and louder. And I'm like, look, like I'm the audio guy here. I'm telling you, if you put it any louder, when people turn it way up, it's going to hurt their ears. You gotta, and having people re-sing stuff and maybe mixing a song a certain way, or instrument, putting instruments in it a certain way. But I haven't had too many headbutts, but there's been some small ones, and it's always, for the most part, and just like you, I think at the end of the day, people come to you and people come to me because they know what we're about in the beginning. Yeah. And although they will kind of every once in a while butt heads with you, at the end of the day, they go, no, at the end of the day, I came to you because I know you're the expert.
Right. Exactly. And, there's some, and what you do end up learning, at least I did as a trainer, is, and of course, you know what, Joseph, there's Einstein said something way back. It was one of his quotes, and my dad said it also. So he was really smart too. Einstein said, the best knowledge is through experience, and my dad used to say it in a different way. It's hard to replace firsthand experience. And when you do your due diligence, and, then all of a sudden that pays off when you start working with people that are strong personalities, and then you start learning how to get the most out of them. It's like being a coach who knows how to get the most out of their athlete. And when you get really good at what,
exactly it.
Right.
Yes. And everyone's different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you actually start becoming somebody who's worth their salt when you're able to handle just about any personality that's out there. Because I know in the beginning as a trainer, I had to stay sort of in a smaller lane until I got enough experience under my belt and confidence, because I knew at some point I was going to say, look, the why of something. I'm having you do this, and here's why. And I think that's what makes the distinction between somebody who's great at what they do and somebody who's good at what they do, in my view.
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. Yep.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I tell you what, I've on and off, I ask about you, and if I follow you on, I go to Instagram. My Instagram is all done by somebody else, but I go on there and mess around with it sometimes and screw things up. And I've been watching you on and off throughout your whole career, and I have to tell you something. I'm really proud of you, and it's pretty cool to see. I think you're quite a success story, and
I appreciate that.
No, it's true, man. And I'm really proud to have somebody there in Nashville kicking ass.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been a wild ride, and I'm very fortunate to again have a very, very supportive family and come from a community like the Central Valley that instilled hard work into my DNA. We come from a long line of very hard workers, and I'll tell you what, more than anything, being a good person and not being scared to put in time and effort is what has gotten me as far as I have, and is going to continue to take me up. For me, it's always this: never content, always trying to do more. So
yeah. And I'll tell you what, my dad, speaking of, my dad taught me how to work just like your dad did. Yep. And that's one of the best things that happened to me. And I really appreciate that. As you get older, you really start realizing how much your parents really did know and do know, Yeah. Because my dad was raised by my grandpa. I mean, it's just, and I'm so thankful. I was never afraid to work, and neither are you. So here's the thing. You have passion for what you do. You have a good work ethic, You've got a lovely wife. You've got a great foundation, man. You're going to be around for a long time. I just know it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Listen, on this show, would you like to promote anything? I mean, now's a good time. If you'd like to let us know how we can find you, go for it.
Yeah, so Martina and I have a website. It's joeandmartina.com, and that's our artist stuff. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, all that, just at Joe and Martina. We have a single out to radio right now called Give Me Back the 90s. Big fan of 90s music, so it's kind of our little tip of the hat to 90s country. And we got to collaborate with one of our favorite singers on the planet, John Barry, who's a big Grammy Award-winning, big hit maker in the 90s. Nice. So kind of cool to bring him back in. We have a new song coming out in the next couple of weeks called Hometown Summer Nights. That's going to be great. And then on my production stuff, I'm on Instagram. I haven't built a website yet. I'm in the process of that. But if you're on Instagram, Joe Costa Productions. And you can see all the stuff I'm working on and all the different artists and all the nerdy music gear I post and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Hey, listen, continued success. Give my best to your wife. I thought after I asked you to be on the podcast, I mean, she could have been on too. I would have been good with that. Maybe another time, if you got some.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, but this was cool. Like me and you got to catch up. It's been way too long, and but she'd love to talk to you. She's very into fitness.
Nice.
And she's lost about 40-something pounds the last couple years. Just working with a trainer.
Yeah.
And doing stuff the right way and slow and. So I think you two would really hit it off. So that'd be.
And let me ask you, how long you'll be around in town?
Till late August.
Well, listen, I got a studio over in Tulare, and you guys are more than welcome. She wants to come over. It's personal training. Yeah. We'll have her work with the trainer if you guys want to come over. And I'm serious about that. Do not hesitate if you'd like to. Okay. I'll catch up with you after the show. And I'd love to see you in person and your wife and meet you guys, and you guys can train over there if you'd like, if that suits
that would be
you.
Awesome. I love that.
But listen, I really do appreciate you taking the time out to do the podcast. It means a lot. And
it means a lot to have me on here. Thank you.
Beautiful. And when I'll be in Nashville again one of these days, and what I'll do is I'll hunt you when I get there.
Sounds great.
All right, man. You take care of yourself, and maybe I'll see you before you leave.
I would love that. Let's
Okay.
definitely do that.
Okay, Joseph.
All right.
You take care.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.